Hello students, this is Pranav Varshan LB, Assistant Professor in Department of Respiratory Care Technology, School of Allied Sciences, Vinayaga Mission Research Foundation. Today we are going to discuss about pleural cavity and its fluid mechanisms. Let's go to the basic concepts of pleural cavity. First, pleural cavity is defined between lung fluid mechanisms and the outer structure of the rib cages. There is a two space between lungs and the rib cage. The difference between two individual mechanisms, the central pathway is there. The central pathway is known as pleural cavity. There are two types of pleural cavity. First one is intercostal and extracostals. These two spaces in between where the fluid is being filled. The fluid which lies between two layers is between approximately 10 to 20 ml in structures, which is a small quantity. The laying of two structures in between lays as a minimal pleural effusion if it goes from 20 to 50 ml. When it goes more than 50 ml to 100 ml, it is known as massive pleural effusion, which we can go through as different stages of pleural effusions and different kinds of pleural effusion. Let's go further and discuss about pleural effusions and its cavities. First, a normal pleural fluid, which will be seen as a normal color or a straw colored fluids. A normal color fluid, which is known as pleural fluid, but if you go to the abnormal stages, which is known as 50 ml or about 100 ml, which is known as abnormal pleural fluids or pleural fluid cavity, which is seen in a stage of straw color fluid. You can see it here. Next, which is mainly produced in the stage of pleural absorption or via lymphatic tissues. The main composition of a pleural fluid is pH, which lays between 6.60 to 6.64, as well as proteins, which consist of less than 1.5 grams per decimals. When we go to the WBC cells, which should be less than 1000 per mm cube. Then we go for functions of pleural fluids. The main function of pleural fluid, as say before itself, it is known for lubrication between pleural surfaces and the rib cages. Main function of pleural fluid is to surface the both layers and avoid tensions to avoid the lung expansion collapses. It also acts as a mechanical cushions for lungs. Since lungs consist of two low weight or two spongy particle, it floats in the water, as the lungs pleural cavity helps in the transaction of gases or helps to float the lung. When we go for pleural effusions, it can be defined as both pathological and anatomical conditions. When we go for pathological thing, the excess fluid in pleural cavity is known as pleural effusion, which causes imbalance between formation and absorption. What is formation and absorption? Formation is nothing but a gas exchange between the capillaries and to the alveoli. Since the veins is carrying the blood stream and the pure oxygen levels, the in between where the capillaries is acting as a gas mechanism. In this gas mechanism, where the breakage is being happening is due to pleural effusions. In this breakage, no gas exchange will take place and no oxygen supply is going to be in ventricular lines. And absorptions, as well as before where I said, the gas exchange mechanisms. When the gas exchange mechanism, the alveoli should give oxygen to the bloodstream. But in bloodstream, if there is a breakage is there is no absorption of O2 and there is no transport of CO2 also. Let's come to the pleural effusion category. There are two types of pleural effusions. One is transudate and exudate phase. What is transudate and exudate? Transudate, which is a clear fluid, can be visualized as clear fluid. Next is which contains of low protein levels. If we take a sample of pleural fluid in transudate effusion, the fluid will be clear and invisible conditions. What are the causes of pleural effusion in this category? First is congestive heart failure. If a person is actively having any heart failure or due to any heart infections or any injury to the heart or minimal exposure to the heart, it is known as conjunctive heart failure. Next one is nephrotic syndrome. If a person is consisting of any lymphatic systematic any error or any lymphatic damages, the person may come under pleural effusions. Then pathophysiology of this transparent effusion is increased hydrostatic pressure and decreased oncotic pressure. No need to worry about this pressure. The pressure is nothing but the translation of O2 or CO2 from alveoli to capillaries or capillaries to bloodstream. In between the meanwhile, there should be some pressure, right? Transporting of one particle to another particle. This is known as the pressure which defined inside the capillaries. Here, what they said, increased hydrostatic pressure. Hydrostatic pressure is in capillaries, the oxygen or smaller molecules which getting transported from alveoli to the capillaries. Then decreased oncotic pressure. Oncotic pressure is from the bloodstream which gets transported to the alveoli thing, like carbon dioxide and other waste materials. These are the types of pressures which is acting in the capillaries. Here we are saying it as hydrostatic pressure and oncotic pressure, which is defined on transport mechanisms like O2, CO2, lymphocytes and other microorganisms which is going to be transported. Let's come to the exudate effusion. Exudate effusion is nothing but which consists of high protein levels inside it is. Next, which is not in a clear form, which will be shown as cloudy fluid form. Cloudy fluid is nothing but it can be in a colorless or a colored or like whitish color, red, green or black. Then what are the cause of this exudate effusion? Cause infections like TB, pneumonias and the other forms are like malignancy and pulmonary embolisms. Pulmonary embolism is nothing but a blood clot or any active infections in a particular range of a lung or surrounded the particles. Then pathophysiology of this exudate effusion is increased capillary permeability or lymphatic absorption. As I said before, the lymphatic tissues which consist of an transport mechanism where obstruction happens in the capillaries, there is no transport is going to happen in between alveoli and the capillaries membranes. Since breakage is happening in between capillaries and alveoli, it is known as lymphatic absorption, where the absorption stops there. Next, increased capillary permeability. Capillaries which gradually consist of transporting mechanism where the transport mechanisms once it is increased to a high range or which is decreased in a gradually to the lowest surface. They say as increased capillary permeability. As we see about pleural effusions or pleural fluids, there are different kinds of pleural effusions getting happening. Then what are the kinds of pleural effusions and what are the kinds of pleural fluids present inside? First we will go about hemothorax or the types of pleural effusions. First is hemothorax. Hemothorax is nothing but where the pleural cavity is present. In the pleural cavity, blood instead of clear fluid, where blood is present, it's known as hemothorax. Next we go under pneumothorax. Pneumothorax is nothing but where a clear fluid of 20 to 10 ml should be present, right? Instead of 20 to 10 ml of fluid, in air is present, it is known as pneumothorax. Next category is chylothorax. Chylothorax is filled with lymphatic fluids in pleural cavity. Lymphatic fluids are usually known as milky in color, like pure milk. And next is which consists of triglyceride rich protein content in it. Last one is emphysema. As all we know, emphysema is known as pus in pleural cavity. These are the four major categories or types of pleural fluids which is present in pleural cavity. Next, how do we diagnose this pleural cavities and all? First, initially we go to a doctor and we go for diagnostic tool. The diagnostic tools which we are going to see is X-ray, ultrasound or CT or to the high extent as MRI. First, we will see for an X-ray. In X-rays, what we will see? A whitish layer, a black patch consists of inside small white patches. If a fluid is present in the X-ray, we see a lung contains black atmosphere. The black atmosphere is air. If a lung is filled with white patchy and a half of the lung is covered with black, it's known as pleural effusion. If a pericardial effusion is, we say as inside the cardiac surface, a white patch will be around the cardiac surface. It's known as pericardial effusion. When we go for lungs, it's known as half of the lung will be filled with black and half of the lung will be filled with white. The white content is pleural effusion and the black content is air, which is known for exchange mechanism. Since we are going for thoracentesis. What is thoracentesis? A thoracentesis is a diagnostic tool or a diagnostic mechanism which we are going to aspirate inside the lung with the help of a needle or a syringe, and we are going to take a sample of pleural fluid and going to give to the laboratory for test. There are variety of tests which we are going to run with that sample. What are the tests we are going to run? Which is known as color appearances, which is normal in color or milky in color, what kind of color which is. Next, pH, is it acid or base thing. Then protein content, LDH, glucose, gram strain, cytology and triglyceride levels. The triglyceride levels defines the quantity and quality of how much it is in a thick order. We have speaking about a pleural cavity and its fluids. The main important thing or a main category, what notes you have to know is, first, normal fluid is a minimal and essential for lung movements. For the movement of lung, the lung should have a minimal and essential fluid for its movements. Next, pleural effusion indicates underlying systemic or local pathology. The effusion depends on category of a main underlying systemic and local pathologies. Proper diagnosis like transudate or exudate phase has to be found in the initial stage. Next, the special effusions like hemothorax, pneumothorax, chylothorax and emphysema which has been diagnosed, these kind of categories has to be treated immediately or in a urge category. Like emergency situations, we need to treat them immediately so that the life of a person can be saved before the lifespan. Thank you.